Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to Dr. Geek. Today, we're discussing Series 10, Episode 8, The Lie of the Land. We open this week to an inspirational video narrated by the Doctor that explains the role that the monks have played in the development of the human race. Like parents clapping at a baby's first steps, the monks have been by humanity's side through all of our triumphs, from the pyramids to the moon landing. They have always been here. The Doctor goes on to remind us about all of the times the monks have saved humanity as well, from when they defeated the Daleks to when they overcame the Cybermen and the Weeping Angels. The humans and monks are two species sharing a history as happily as they share a planet, a blissful and perfect partnership. How lucky the Earth is to have an ally as powerful and as tender as the monks, that ask for nothing in return for their benevolence, but obedience. As the video ends, we join a family as they sit at home watching the Doctor, but their viewing is interrupted by an aggressive knock on the door, and as a SWAT team breaks down their door, they are ordered to the ground. The woman inside is accused of creating propaganda intended to undermine the true history in contravention of the Memory Crimes Act of 1975. The woman scoffs at this and tries to argue that the monks have only been here on Earth for a few months, but she is quickly sentenced to 10 years in a labor camp for her crimes. As the woman is dragged from her home, she yells out to her neighbors to fight the monks and try to realize that they haven't been here forever. As she is thrown into the back of a black van marked Truth, Bill looks on from down the street and quickly walks the other way. As the camera pans up, we see that the entire world is full of giant bronze statues made to the monks, and we hear the end of the Doctor's motivational video. So relax, do as you're told. Your future is taken care of. After the credits, we join Bill in her home, and from her face, she's clearly troubled. When last we saw her, Bill had just asked the monks to give the Doctor his sight back. We still don't know how she got here, and more confusingly, how the Doctor got to be making promotional videos for the monks. Bill allows herself to briefly be overcome with the monks' truth message, and for a moment, she smiles, before shaking herself back into her cold reality. As she grips her coffee cup, she imagines her mother sitting in front of her, dressed the same as she was in the picture the Doctor gave her in the pilot episode, and that she hung up on her wall in Knock Knock. Bill speaks to her mother, telling her that the monks have been here for 6 months now, and she has no idea how she got here, or why no one else is saying anything about the monks. Bill says that every day it gets harder and harder to fight the truth messages that are changing her memories and making her forget what's really happened. But she's confident that the Doctor has a plan and that he's going to save them. It's clear that Bill is beginning to lose it a little bit, but before she can continue her one-sided conversation, she hears someone breaking into her apartment and arms herself with a stool to confront her attacker. But it turns out to only be Nardole, or Nardi as he calls himself mid-shriek. Nardole says he was incapacitated for 6 weeks by the toxic air in the lab, and he's only now just been able to find Bill. Bill tells him that she was starting to believe that her travels with the Doctor had never happened, and was starting to become convinced that the monks were actually correct. Nardole tells her that no matter how bad a situation is, people will always go along with it if they think that's how it's always been. They assume this is the monks' motivation for changing the past. Bill realizes that even with Nardole's 6 weeks being sick, he still had plenty of time to find her, and she wonders what he was up to. But he tells her that he was looking for the Doctor, and he's discovered where he is. Nardole explains that the only time anyone has ever seen the Doctor is when he does his broadcasts for the monks, which Bill is confident that he is faking. Nardole has managed to track the broadcast to a prison ship that's constantly on the move, but it resupplies every 6 weeks, and the next scheduled stop is in 2 weeks off the coast of Scotland. Bill and Nardole make a deal with the captain of the resupply boat, who is no fan of the monks, and they make their way to the prison ship. Once they begin to unload the cargo, the ship's crew calls for a spot check to look at their papers, but the monks arrive just in time, distracting the crew and saving Bill and Nardole from being exposed. The two of them continue to make their way through the ship, now on their own, and they soon find the room where the doctor is being held. However, as they enter the room, the doctor does not seem happy to see them, and immediately jumps up, calling for his guards. Bill and Nardole are very confused, as the doctor yells at them for coming to see him, and tells them that he will have to contact the monks, which he does using a red phone on his desk. Bill cannot believe that the doctor has just called the monks after everything that they have just gone through, and she calls him a nutter. The doctor says he owes her an explanation, and tells her that humanity is no longer moving forward. In fact, it's regressing. He says that life under the monks is safer for humanity, even though they kill people, as Bill points out. The doctor counters that the Romans killed people as well, and saved billions more from disease, war, famine, and barbarism. Bill brings up free will, but the doctor tells her that she had free will, and look at what she did with it. He tells her that she is to blame for this situation, as he never asked for his sight back. But Bill chose to ignore the doctor, and they are lucky that it was a benevolent race like the monks, and not the Daleks. Bill tries one last time to get through to the doctor, trying a coded message by mentioning the time that they found a giant fish monster in the Seine in Paris. But the doctor corrects her, saying it was actually the Thames in London, and Bill is completely devastated. This is all real, she realizes, and the doctor is not playing around. Once again, her facial expressions are heartbreaking as she goes through a range of emotions. I feel like Pearl has at least one scene every week where she acts her ass off. Bill launches into a tirade, telling the doctor how hard the past few months have been for her, but she persisted, for him. Seeing a gun out of the corner of her eye, she grabs it and aims it at the doctor. The doctor attempts to convince her to put it down, but she tells him that the monks can never be stopped as long as he is helping them. The doctor tells her that this isn't a trick, and that whatever it takes, he is going to save humans from themselves. And with that, Bill fires 3 rounds into the doctor's chest. Dropping the gun, horrified, Bill looks on as the doctor begins his regeneration. But as the energy overtakes his entire body, he suddenly and abruptly stops regenerating. And with a smile, he tells Bill that she's done good. The room of guards erupts in applause, as even Nardole was in on the ruse. Bill is very confused, and asks what the hell is going on. And the doctor explains that he had to test her to see if she was under the influence of the monks, since they have been using their power to keep the human race under their control. He had to be certain that she wasn't testing him. The doctor has spent the last 6 months recruiting this room of soldiers, deprogramming them and recruiting them into the fight against the monks. He explains that they all exchanged their rounds with blanks before she arrived, and even though one of the soldiers forgot to do that, everything went according to plan. I have to say that this was a pretty awful thing to put Bill through, as she was already going a little crazy as it was, and pushing her to commit murder of her friend, even if it wasn't real, is a pretty fucked up thing to do. Bill, understandably pissed, wants to beat Nardole into the ground, but the doctor implores her to focus on the task at hand, and tells them that they will need to recruit some help. Nardole asks who they can get, and the doctor tells them that they need the only person who's almost as smart as him. Nardole is shocked that it's come to this, and I think we all know who he means. The vault is finally going to open. As they return to the university, the monks are waiting for them, but they manage to sneak down to the vault, and the doctor enters the combination. As they walk in, Bill is surprised by its contents, saying, "It's just a woman? I thought you had a monster locked up in here." "I do," replies the doctor. Bill asks why he has a woman locked up, as even she thinks that's weird, and she's been attacked by a puddle. She's going cold turkey from being bad, the doctor tells her, which makes Missy chuckle. They ask Missy if she's ever faced the monks before, and she has. But as Bill asks for her help to beat them, she gives them a list of demands, including books, a particle accelerator, and a pony. After they agree, the doctor begins bouncing ideas off of her, trying to figure out how the monks control so many people. He eventually discovers that the person who consents to the monks forms a psychic link with them, becoming a sort of anchor, and their brainwaves are magnified by the giant bronze statues and broadcast all over the world. Having arrived at the problem, Missy tells him that the solution is easy. Simply find the person who consented to the monks in the first place and kill them. The doctor, now much less pleased, insists that that can't be right, as the monks have ruled over civilizations for thousands of years. But Missy tells him that the connection is passed down through the anchor's bloodline. Bill tells Missy that the anchor is her, which elicits an awkward from Missy. The doctor tells her that even if that was the answer, the fact that Missy suggested it shows that she has learned nothing in her prison, as we never sacrifice people, because it's wrong and because it's easy. Missy tells him that she's sorry his +1 doesn't get a happy ending, but like it or not, she just saved the world, and she did it because she wants to change. But if he expects her to live up to his vain, arrogant, sentimental version of good, she's going to be there for a long time yet. After returning to their base of operations, they bring Nardole up to speed on what Missy has told them, and Bill tells the doctor that this is their only option, as the monks knew that their plan would work because the doctor would never be willing to sacrifice his companion. The doctor instead decides that they have to break into the monks' cathedral, their main base, the pyramid. He reasons that somewhere in there they must have a machine that is transmitting out the alternate version of history. All he has to do is plug his brainwaves into the transmitter, and he can send out the correct version of history. Nardole is worried that the doctor plugging his brain into a machine powerful enough to broadcast propaganda to the entire world might be a little dangerous, but the doctor says that the machine won't stand a chance. Outside the monks' headquarters, the truth message is stronger than ever. So strong that even Bill is having trouble holding on to her reality, which doesn't bode well for the doctor's team of trained soldiers. The doctor tells them all to pull out their headphones and cassette players, and he has Bill record a message that will play on a loop for them to listen to. The monks are not our friends. They have invaded the earth and made its people slaves. It says this over and over, along with the description of their plan. As they storm the pyramid, they are attacked by the monks, who shoot lightning from their hands and block bullets with mangled shields. In the attack, one of the soldiers, named Alan, gets his cassette player damaged, and his recording stops playing. As the doctor attempts to open a door that's in their path, Alan produces his gun and places it on the doctor's head, accusing him of trying to deceive them about the monks. However, before he can pull the trigger, he falls to the ground unconscious, and Nardole reveals that he has used the Tarovian neck pinch on him, a martial arts form that he studied for a time. As the doctor opens the door, they see a room full of screens projecting the scenes of the past, and the doctor dubs it Fake News Central. In the middle of the room sits a monk. The doctor approaches the monk, but it makes no indication that it knows he is there, and the doctor discovers that it is not conscious. As he places his hands on the monk's head, he begins to erase the monks from history, but before he can finish, he is blown backwards, and he tells them that the monk is fighting back. Trying again, the monk resists even harder, and as the screens all switch to showing nothing but the monks' faces, he is blown backwards again, this time across the room, and he briefly loses consciousness. As the doctor wakes, he realizes that he has been tied up, and Bill tells him that she wanted to wait for him to wake so that she could say goodbye. Bill plans to attempt what the doctor just did, only she knows that this act will fry her brain, effectively ending the psychic link. The doctor begs her not to go through with this, telling her that there is another way, but she won't listen, and neither will Nardole, who gives her a hug goodbye. As Bill touches the monk, her memories appear on the screens, and the monks begin to fight back, hijacking her memories like a virus. The doctor manages to get himself free, and frantically tries to find a way to shut down the transmitter, but to no avail. But suddenly, something changes. Bill begins to think of her mother, and the version of her that she's created to cope with the world of the monks. That memory that she created for herself is something that the monks can't touch. It's uncorruptible, and it begins to be broadcast throughout the world. A view of the world without the monks. As the monks' connection is broken, the people begin to realize the truth, and they revolt against the monks in the street. Bill, Nardole, and the Doctor make their way out of the pyramid and watch as it flies away. A few days later, as Bill and the Doctor sit in the ruins of an old monk statue, Bill expresses her hope that this will be a turning point for humanity and will teach them that they can rise up. But a quick question to a passing teenager shows them that the monks have erased themselves from the humans' minds, and humanity is doomed to never learn from its mistakes. Bill quips that it's part of humanity's charm, but the Doctor tells her that it's actually quite annoying. She asks him why he puts up with them then, and he tells her that among 7 billion, eventually there's one like her, and that's why he puts up with the rest of them. As the episode ends, we join the Doctor and Missy inside the vault, as Missy cries over all of the people that she has killed. The Doctor tells her that he knows that she's feeling terrible, but it's actually good that she's experiencing this, and she accepts that as she continues to weep over her victims. So, much like the episode last week, I would have enjoyed this episode far more if it had been a standalone. But even more so than last week, this episode was really a letdown, as it saw the Monk trilogy end with a whimper. Getting through what I liked about this episode first, I of course, as always, have to give props to Pearl Mackie, who once again knocked the ball out of the park. Specifically, her scene where the Doctor is testing her was truly heartbreaking, as the pain on her face at the Doctor's betrayal was clear as day. I couldn't help but think of what the studio must have felt like on the day they recorded that scene, as everyone in the background seemed absolutely captivated by Pearl's performance, as she went through a range of emotions from betrayal to sadness to heartbreak to devastation to anger to red-hot fury. Peter Capaldi also performed very well in that scene, as he sold the ruse well, but overall, he was fairly quiet in this episode, as we dealt more with Bill. Nardole, as usual, had a few great lines to lighten up the drama, and I love how he's managed to almost sneak into the TARDIS team to a point where I really couldn't imagine it without him. The episode itself had a lot of problems with the story, but as far as how it looked, I really appreciated the dark overtones of the entire episode, as we got a feeling for how truly apocalyptic the world had become in just a short amount of time. As for what I didn't like, while the concept of the episode was interesting, the gimmick felt a little familiar, like a combination of the silence and of all of Earth's history happening at once in the episode The Wedding of River Song. It was definitely a Stephen Moffat-inspired episode, and it all just felt like it's been done before, even though technically it hasn't. While I definitely praised the episode for the scene between the Doctor and Bill on a character level, from a story writing stance, I really hated it. It seemed very out of character for the Doctor to put a companion through that kind of mental anguish. It's one thing if he needed to test her, but the things that he was saying were actually true from a certain point of view, and him not being serious didn't take away from the fact that he made her mad enough to kill him, and that was his plan. Just the fact that the Doctor thought, hey, yeah, let's get Bill to try and commit murder, and not just any murder, my murder, her best friend. That would be a great test. And then to just shrug it off and move on as soon as it's revealed to be a ruse? I just thought that was in very poor taste, and it could have been written much better. There are a million different ways that the Doctor could have tested Bill without forcing her to shoot him in the chest. Naturally, I enjoyed Missy in this episode, as I always do, but her appearance in this episode seemed pretty shoehorned in, and in the end, all she did was provide exposition to the monks, and basically revealed everything that the main characters didn't already know. To me, that's lazy writing, no matter how much I like seeing Michelle Gomez on screen. And let's not even get started on the fact that they were building up to this damn vault for half of the season, and this is what we get when it's finally opened? A 5-minute conversation and a 30-second cry fest at the end of the episode? As far as a season twist goes, The Vault will probably go down as one of the worst of the Moffat era, by far. And finally, let's talk about that ending. Time and time again, Moffat tries to shove the "love conquers all" message down our throats, and every time it rings hollow. The most easily remembered example of this was the episode Closing Time, when the 11th Doctor and Craig managed to beat the Cybermen with the power of love. And that episode is pretty universally hated. Yet here we are again with an episode that's already barely giving us a good ending to the monks, and they have to throw in a sappy love ending again? In the end, it's Bill's memories of her mother, inspired by the pictures the Doctor gifted to her, that provides a pure enough memory to stop the monks. It was tacky, it was coincidental, and it was frankly lazy writing. We never even get to see Bill let go of the monk, but presumably she's completely fine after this ordeal, despite the Doctor, Bill, and everyone else assuming that this would kill her, or at least fry her brain. And then, the last we see of the monks is a quickly departing spaceship? No final conflict, no parting words, no "curses, Doctor!" Just, let's get the hell out of here. After a 2-episode build-up, this episode was a massive letdown, and the arc as a whole seemed to lose steam at a steady rate after getting off to a pretty great start with Extremis. Overall, I found this episode to be mediocre at best. The concept of a 3-part alien invasion sounds great on paper, and the monks are surely menacing enough, but they never really do anything. Honestly, think about it. What did the monks do? Extremis introduced us to a frightening enemy with godlike powers who could see the future. The pyramid at the end of the world followed that up with them needing to be asked to save humanity for some reason, and it ended with Bill giving away the planet. And then, the trilogy ends with the monks barely putting up a fight as love conquers them, and then they leave in a puff of smoke. For an enemy that was shown to have the power to control nearly anything, the idea that they could be beaten so easily by a handful of soldiers with headphones on, and again, after 3 weeks of build-up, is the definition of dropping the ball story-wise. For a bland episode that just couldn't deliver on its promises, I give The Lie of the Land 6 monk statues out of 10. So, that was my review of Series 10, Episode 8. Be sure to like and subscribe for new reviews and Doctor Who news every week. On the side, you can find my review for Series 10, Episode 7, The Pyramid at the End of the World. So check that out if you haven't already, and thank you for being my companion on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.